Does burnout happen every round?
If the round goes on long enough, probably. You probably get to that point where it's at least a threat. I wouldn't say it always happens, but I would say the threat of burnout is definitely there because getting hit, doing certain actions and whatnot, they will cause your burnout thing to go in. And maybe you're a player who just specializes in like, I'm never going to get burned out. So I'm always going to have resources. Good on you if that's the way you want to play it, but for the most part, burnout is a factor in pretty much every round that goes on for maybe 30 to 40 seconds. If you're dying in 12 seconds, 15 seconds, probably not so much.
Are there non-KO scenarios worth putting yourself into burnout for, or is burnout a death sentence?
Burnout is definitely not a death sentence. It is. There's numerous rounds I played and then other people played where I saw them go into burnout fairly early or in the middle of it, and they still pulled it out and were just fine. It's not a death sentence, but it is a severe disadvantage. I would put it as, let's say starting out the round in Street Fighter 6, you're at 100%. 100% of your capabilities, all that other kind of stuff. Burnout probably knocks you down to about 35% of your capabilities. It's very limiting, and if your opponent knows what options you have at that point in time and they're aware you're burned out, just a single drive impact that gets you in the corner, you're stunned and you're done. It's such a big disadvantage to be in that state. You're not getting any EX reversals out there. You're not a sitting duck, but you are severely limited in what you can do.
Mm-hmm. And you're much more susceptible to that impact, and you can be stunned now. And
you can't parry. You can't do a bunch of stuff. You are really locked down.
You're predictable too. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
If I were to kind of measure any fighting game, maybe anything, at a certain level, you could measure it all in risk versus reward. And however balanced that particular, what would you say, fulcrum is, I think directly translates to how fun the experience is, or at least how rewarding it is, something like that. People are saying Street Fighter 6 is really fun. Does that mean that the risk reward feels pretty balanced right now, or is two different things?
Yeah, no, it's they go hand in hand, but no one knows how to play the game yet. I really compare this to Street Fighter 5 when it first came out, and I remember a handful of people saying it feels like I've mastered this game in 20 minutes. And I'm sure some of that was facetious, and I'm also sure some of that was pure arrogance of, I'm just so good in Street Fighter 4, I'm going to be amazing in Street Fighter 5, right? And if you were playing Street Fighter 5 like it was its predecessor, how well has that worked out for anyone? Which the answer is pretty much that has been a death sentence if you try to do that.
Right.
So we really don't understand how to play Street Fighter 6, and if you go up against someone who's just like, let's say, a master of resource management, where they know how to keep enough meter and enough other stuff to just keep you at bay and keep you in positions and keep you in situations where you are consistently disadvantaged, I don't know if there's a lot of Street Fighter players who are used to that right now. There are some players who understand resource management, especially going back to 4. That was far more of a feature with 4 than it's been in other games, because I've mentioned this in my review. Street Fighter 5 is like, well, let me just throw everything I can at you and hope something good happens, and I don't really care if I run out of resources, because my odds of killing you with just throwing everything I have, throwing caution to the wind, are really good. And that's the way that Street Fighter 5 works. There's no real punishment for just, there's no burnout. There's no real way of, it's like, yeah, maybe you cooked all your resources, but your odds of KOing someone with that are just really good.
Yeah.
It's very different in this game. And because of resource management being such a big deal, because of that being such an important aspect of the game, we don't understand the meta just yet. We don't understand how to cultivate that and how to make that a crucial part of what we're doing, and just no one's even come close to tapping into that yet. Maybe the developers have, but at least no one in the community. So we don't fundamentally understand what the game is yet, and so there's so much room to grow with this. And Street Fighter, most every Capcom fighting game, the depth there, the understanding there, the meta that must be played at the highest of levels, that usually comes about 6 months to a year into it. And every now and again, you get a few players that understand the meta before everyone else, but usually the masses kind of pick it up 6 months to a year after the game comes out, and then everyone starts playing the game kind of that way.
Is there a single most fun part of the experience that easily comes to mind?
Oh man,
the answer could be no. It could
no.
It could be.
This is gonna sound funny, but the polished presentation of the game, where it feels like they have not mailed in all the content and other stuff like that, like they did with Street Fighter V, where it was like you're buying like half of a game, or 3/4 of a game, or whatever it was, a very incomplete experience. And I know it's very early on, but like the attention to detail of a AAA game, where you're going into the menus and you're hearing the music, you're seeing the setup, you're seeing the presentation, you're seeing all this kind of stuff. Street Fighter 6 actually feels like a finished version, not finished like in terms of like all the content's there, but like they actually polished up a AAA game and are releasing it when they should be. And I would compare it to the first time you played vanilla Street Fighter 4. When you got in there and you saw, oh man, there's like 10 menus in here, and there's online play, there's single player, there's all this other kind of stuff. Like, wow, there's actually a complete game for me to go and play and have fun with. That has been the most fun part of it. It's like, oh wow, like I'm getting a real Street Fighter game here since the first time since 2008 or 9, whatever you want to call the arcade release in there. But for our console gamers, for most people, 2009, I'm getting the first real Street Fighter game that's actually complete since then. And that's been the most fun part for me. I'm like, oh wow, this feels right. It feels like Street Fighter should. Again, I've been playing since Street Fighter 2. I'm an old man, very old man. Shout out to someone in the comments who said I look much younger than I actually am. Please keep commenting and telling everyone that, because I love to hear that. But yeah, playing for a long time, and so that's been the most fun thing for me. It's just that nostalgia being recaptured there.
Fair enough. Well, it is an even-numbered Street Fighter title, so we all know what that means. And if you don't, there's a video about it somewhere on our channel.
Go into this game with as much as I say it's Street Fighter 5.5, that's still another whole half of a game, at the very worst, to explore. And that might change quite a bit in development and stuff. And with a whole nother half of a game, if you added a whole nother half of a game onto Street Fighter 5, it would change that game dramatically. And so even if there's a lot of callbacks, even if it's the same development team, go into this game with fairly fresh eyes and a fresh mind that you don't know what you think you know in terms of how it's going to shake out. Because that is the history of Street Fighter. Like, go in and have fun with it, learn the game as everyone else does, but don't think you know more than you know yet. That is one of the biggest follies that I've seen in the fighting game community. As I just mentioned, when someone talked about like, hey, I mastered Street Fighter 5 in 20 minutes. You're not going to master Street Fighter 6 in 20 minutes, nor a day, nor in a week, or anything like that. Be humble about going into it and have some fun along the way. That's really it's why we play these games, is to have fun with them. There's a lot of fun to be had. Just enjoy the ride, and then worry about where the tier list and all that other kind of stuff shake out a little bit later on down the road. And shout outs to EventHubs, because I'm sure we're going to have some our pre-day one tier list up there. Might even come from me, I don't know, but
I've already got one ready to go.
Yeah, we're still having fun when we put that stuff in there. The tale is still being told, and so don't have too many heavy expectations of what everything is, right from the get-go. That would be kind of my biggest piece of advice, because I saw a lot of people fall on that sword with Street Fighter 4 and 5, and it just they came in thinking like the game is going to be this or that, and it was something different, and that kind of pissed them off, and they hated the game before it. And it's like, no, like, this is a brand new game in a lot of respects. There's some definite callbacks, but enjoy it for what it is, not what it isn't.
So are you more or less excited now that you've gotten to play it?
More. I would drop it. The only thing I would miss is I would miss Rose in Street Fighter V, who's my literal favorite fighting game character of all time. She is a brilliant character in how they designed her. She has so much stuff going for her. She's hella hard to play and do that. Like Rose is who, like, the moment Rose is available, I will always play her. But I will even play her male student. If Rose is not available, she has a male student and a female one, Manat, right? I will even play her male student if they put him in the game. But the moment Rose is available, I'm switching to Rose. That is, I don't care if she's Dan tier, I don't care what she is. Rose is who I play. So that part is the only part I'm not looking forward to, because I love having my character on hand. But if I could switch over to Street Fighter 6 right now, I would. The better net play, just the updated game. It's been really fun playing Street Fighter 5, but I'm ready to take that leap.
Hey, me too.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, John.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not
so
prepared.
I'm gonna verse this up. So you've been watching the streams and all this other kind of stuff a lot. Like, what are your concerns about the game so far? Like, what things are kind of jumping out to you as like worrisome parts right now?
Yeah, so there's the parts of Street Fighter V that I'm hoping that we move away from, and that usually happens when they, because people are vocal. And when Street Fighter 4 happened, it was all vortex, and we don't want that, and we don't want option selects, and so there was a hyper attention to making sure that wasn't in 5. And then there's just these new issues and such. I don't see a lot of that in Street Fighter 6. I don't see a lot of the things that I'm afraid of, but I also haven't felt the game, and most of my perception, well, not most, but a good amount of my perception of these games is from playing and the feel from them. I am, like I've said, I am a little bit worried about drive impact kind of eclipsing the rest of the game. That's where anything that's going to jump out and make the rest or other parts of the game less important, that's naturally going to happen. But if that can happen to a minimal degree, then I'm happy with it. And that's the one thing that's jumped out to me, is that drive impact means you can skip all of these other things. You don't have to worry about nuances of defense. I can just drive impact, and then something's going to happen, and it might be in my favor. It's like I want a little bit more thought to go into things than that. So coveralls like that. And but I don't see the heavy buttons in neutral being especially good. Like where there's like in Street Fighter V, there's a priority system where heavy buttons win out upon clashes, and you have crush counters on top of that, and you have input delay that makes them even better. I don't see that kind of stuff, so I'm encouraged. But as long as there's nothing that comes over and just eclipses most or a handful of other things, that's what I'm hoping for. And then also well, it's in that same exact boat. The drive system, although it looks like you have so many options with it, the meter gets used so quickly, and you really need to save it for whatever the most important thing is, that the rest of it is not really part of your repertoire, at least not as much as the other components of it. So that might be sort of saying the same thing, but those are the things that pop up to me that I'm kind of worried about, but not overly so. I'm more excited than I am worried by far.
Yeah, and I would just encourage everyone to leave comments and stuff. I know Capcom reads our website quite a bit. I know they read the comments. These concerns and other things that you guys have, leave them out there. They do get read. They do get considered. We're going to be talking to developers more. We're going to get more hands-on time with the game. This is not a finished process by any means. That we've played it once and we're good. Like we're going to come back and keep hitting this quite a bit. This feedback does help shape the game. So, and again, we read through the comments, at least the initial parts of them. And if your comments are a few days old, we don't always catch all of them, but we usually read through the first initial patch. And so it's a good way to, and then if you see us at, events and stuff, by all means, come up and talk to us. Had a few people come up and talk to me at Evo about the game and different things. Like, we're always happy to hear this, and we often share this feedback either in articles on the website or videos that we're doing, or when we're talking with Capcom directly. This stuff does tend to come out and manifest itself, especially if we keep hearing something over and over again. Even if it's going to piss off a number of people if we bring it up, we're still going to bring it up because that's our jobs. Our job is to be a voice of the people out there. We try to get these opinions out there that we hear over and over again, even if we don't directly agree with them, because we're hearing it and we would rather have this stuff addressed now than later on down the road. So anyway, keep the comments coming, like, comment, subscribe. We always appreciate that. It does help out the algorithm as well. There's multi-purposes for this one. And then thank you all so much for listening and watching the broadcast stuff. Like, it's really amazing that we get to do this for a living and come on here and talk about fighting games and all that kind of stuff. It's so awesome. And your guys' support of the channel and the website, it's really amazing. Thank you all so much for taking the time to do this out of your busy days and hanging out with us nerds, Street Fighter nerds, fighting game nerds and stuff over here. But yeah, so
wow, all those things you just said that's what I was thinking too.
There you go. Now we got to go watch Nacho Libre. So anyway, let's go check that out. And anyway, so we'll be back with y'all very, very soon. So
adios.